Good afternoon, chosen family. I hope you all are having an amazing, productive day filled with favor, joy, peace, and love. Here I have my notes because today I want to talk about the great work that God does in us and is doing in us. Can we just talk about the stretching, the molding, the very extraction of oil being pulled from our souls by the Father doing his great work in us? I'm sure many of us have felt this emotional tugging and this up and down frenzy of emotions after just being on fire for the Most High God and the things concerning him. It's as if when we invite the Most High into our lives and begin to pray for more capacity, he meets us just where we are and at our very place of need and begins working on us just like that. I mean, you don't notice it at first, but to be a bit poetic here, you start to feel like your soul's cry has become God's muse, and your heart posture has become his first stroke on the easel with his very thoughts and plans towards the beautiful masterpiece he has planned for us, which represents the brush. The best way the Most High God has given me to describe the very feeling of turbulence in our emotional state, our spirit man, and even our physical surroundings was that he is expanding our soul and spirit's capacity. He is stripping away the things that were never a reflection of him to begin with. All the way down from the anger, bitterness, offense, backbiting, imposter syndrome, impatience, pride, lust, comparison, and everything else that is carried as a misfitting and out of order puzzle piece that never belonged to us. We only allowed it to attach itself to us because of our misalignment. And because of that, it opened the doors to an adversary that only wanted to see us with nothing and no one, which is the enemy. But I come to share the reminder and example of Abraham for those that have either already felt the physical effects of the spiritual transformation of the great work, of the intentional passion and purpose that God has begun in us, and or will very soon as we draw closer and press into his presence. Not only his presence, but his heart for us. When your very prayers begin to reflect the growth that and the capacity that he wants for us. Abraham started off as a very self-reliant man because of his doubt in God, until God took him to and through some external things to finally reach the internal being of his future most faithful servant. Nevertheless, Abraham still had a willing heart to obey in spite of his doubt. Abraham's processing of the great work looked something like leaving everything and everyone he had ever known behind, including his homeland and his family alike, all to obey and inherit the promises of God. Hang with me there for a second while I break it down. We can place ourselves here in his shoes by putting it into perspective that typically the great work in us also begins with a simple step of obedience. In all actuality, a simple yes to God. Just like Abraham said yes and God received the green light to begin externally pulling out of Egypt, pulling out of familiarity and anything else that would hinder the process he had for his servant. To fast forward, God had Abraham separate from his closest kin, his brother, with the best intentions of giving to him the promised land for him and his descendants. Still speaking about the great work because many times God has to separate us from everyone, even those closest to us, because there's a process that must take place, instructions to be followed, and a promised land that only you can cross over into, especially when God chose you specifically to be processed, pruned, and positioned in his purpose. Abraham had even gone through an identity shift because of the internal changes and processing that had taken place all the way up until his old age when he got his name changed from Abram to Abraham. Because God knew he had chosen him for such a time as that one, and he knew that he had carefully shaped his servant through countless tests and trials of turbulence and uncertainty to produce a purified, refined, humble, and faithful servant that would keep and honor the covenant God gave to him. Much like us, Abraham was stretched, tried, tested, but always protected, kept, and loved throughout his great work, both internally and externally. Internally, I'm sure Abraham felt like he may not have been able to endure, like his emotions were unsteady, and like he was being stripped of everything familiar that he had ever known. But God kept showing his faithfulness to Abraham with every step. He always had his clay in his hands. God was stripping away anything in Abraham that never looked like his reflection in the first place and revealed what his child was always created to be. So the next time when we begin to feel the presence, the pressure and pressing of the great work being performed in our spirits, we can think of the Father of all the faithful himself, and let God, the ultimate surgeon, do whatever incision he needs to do and cut away whatever he needs to, because we know from our forefather Abraham and every other prophetic example of God doing a great work in his people, that when we get up from spiritual surgery, we will be refined and whole with nothing missing and nothing broken. Thank you guys, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Hopefully this reaches somebody who needs it, because it can be very, very hard when you don't understand what's really happening inside of you. Like all you can explain it as if like you're just having these mood swings or your emotions are all over the place. But when you pray to God to enlarge your territory and I'm not talking just physically, I'm talking about enlarge your spiritual territory, enlarge your capacity to grow, to learn, to go to the next level and things of that nature, you can expect God to intervene. It's just like that removal prayer when we pray that God removes whoever or whatever is not aligned with what he has for us or our purpose or his will for us or whatever. And so it's very important that we recognize that God's going to actually answer you. He's going to put his hand in the situation that you ask him to, if you give him the permission to. Like, he's a gentleman. He's not going to force himself on you. But one thing that God will do is intervene when he has your best interest at heart. And so for anybody that may be going through the great work that he's doing in you, just know that he's transforming you from the inside and out, starting with from the head to the toe, starting with your mind and then ending with your behaviors. Then that's when it shows externally, because if you want something stripped away from you, you have to know it's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel like all, peaches and cream. It's not. It's going to be some heartache. It's going to be some struggle. It's going to be some uncovering some trauma, some wounds. And so I just want to send love to anybody out there that's struggling with the great work going on inside of them now, and just let you know that God got you regardless. Like, and this too shall pass. Most importantly, this is only a phase and or a season, because everything comes to an end, if that makes sense, in the best way possible though. But God has our best interests at heart, and he always wants what's best for us. And so I just want to send love and prayers to anybody going through that. So, have an amazing day, y'all.